Welcome back to Small Caps. My name's Kerry Stevenson. Today, I'm delighted to bring you an update from all about Matador Mining. Joining me today is the Executive Chairman, Ian Murray. Ian, good to see you. Loving the background there.
Thanks, Kerry. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Well, Ian, one of the things that I often say to people when they're looking at companies is if they're not doing any drilling and if they're just sitting there contemplating, then they're not doing anything good with your money. Now, Matador Mining is putting its money into the ground, which is where it should go. Now, you're kicking off with a massive drill program. Perhaps you could just update our listeners with what Matador Mining is doing up there in Newfoundland.
Yeah. So, Kerry, I think the first thing is our project is in Newfoundland. We control what's known as the Cape Ray Shear, so a typical deep-seated shear zone. At the northern end, there's 4.8 million ounces, which a company called Marathon Gold owns, and that's gone through feasibility study. They're starting construction. On the southern end, we've already got 840,000 ounces, but that's within a 15-kilometer strike zone, 15 kilometers. We've got another 105 kilometers that's hardly had any exploration. So this year, we're kicking off 20,000 meter plus diamond drill program. And on top of that, we're doing a big aeromagnetic survey. We proved in 2020 that magnetic surveys show us the targets, and that led to the Angus discovery, first discovery in over 20 years on that belt. There hadn't been a discovery in that area for over 20 years. We made that discovery last year using magnetics.
Let me interrupt you. You say that there's been nothing for the past 20 years. Why is that? How come you've got your foot onto this ground and there's been no work in this area?
So the similarity I'll draw is Gold Road. At Gold Road, when I joined, the geos kept going back and drilling out where they'd found gold before.
Right.
And the challenge I put to the geos, and the same challenge I put to the geologists here, show me that we're drilling the best target first. And they can't. And I tell them, I can tell you, you've drilled the easiest one first because you've already found it. The best one is still hiding out there. So the 15 kilometers where we've got the current resources is where the mineralization outcrops at surface. So the previous explorers found gold at surface and followed it down.
Right.
90% of our tenement has some form of cover, and that's between 0.5 meter and 5 meters thick. So it's not that thick, but it's thick enough that the old explorers, previous explorers, never explored under it. We know from Australian exploration that we explore under 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters of cover, and we've got the tools and techniques for doing that efficiently. And that's what we're rolling out on this belt. So before we do the 20,000 meters of diamond drilling, we do the aeromag survey, magnetic structures under the transported material. We then follow that with an power auger program, so cheap and quick drilling with an Auger Rig. The work we did last year, we've identified all the gold pathfinder elements. So you've got things like zinc, copper, molybdenum, tungsten, etc., that are associated with gold, and often they're broader than where the gold seam is. So if you use your auger drilling, you pick up all these pathfinder elements, but you don't pick up any gold. But at least you know from the work we've done last year with the known discoveries, if we have these pathfinder elements, we know that we're within 100 meters of where the gold source is. So then we go in, refine the target, and then we only drill with diamond drilling, because diamond drilling is expensive and it's slow. So by using the aeromag and using the auger drilling, we refine the targets, and in a way, rather than just throwing lots of dots at a dartboard, which a lot of exploration companies do by just doing drill, 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 we're using these techniques to make the bullseye as big as possible before we throw the dart.
Yeah, Ian, you mentioned just a moment ago you did something similar with Gold Road. And, you know, for those of you who don't know out there, Gold Road has had extraordinary success in an area, in a belt, which everybody almost poo-pooed at the time. I can remember back in the day, people were just saying that Gruyere area, that's, you know, what are you doing out there? But you had massive success there. And you mentioned you're doing this sort of similar technique up there in Newfoundland. Never been done before, allowing, I guess, the shareholder funds to stretch that much further. And so let's just talk about the next steps, where you are right now. You mentioned 20,000 meters of drilling. Talk us through the steps of where we are today and what people can expect in the coming months.
Okay, so the first thing is our two geologists from Perth, our exploration manager and our principal geologist, are on the ground in Newfoundland today.
Wow.
We got them the exemption to travel across there. They've done their, they did 17 days of quarantine because Newfoundland has its own 14-day quarantine. And there's a level of overlap between Canadian, when they land in Toronto, and what they're going to do on the island. So they end up doing 17 days in total quarantine. And now they're on the ground and they're working with the team that we have over there. So that's the first thing. They're over there. We've done all the planning during our summer, Northern Hemisphere winter. We've looked at all the magnetic data, previous magnetic data. We've got the targets. We know what we need to do. The first thing we're doing is using helicopters to fly the aeromagnetic surveys. These lines, they're going to fly lines that are 30 meters apart and 30 meters above the ground to give us very, very clear magnetic images across our tenements. As I mentioned, 120 strike kilometers, a massive area. Previous magnetic surveys were done to 200 spaced lines, 200 meter spaced lines. So doing it at 30,
massive change.
It's not 3 times clearer. It's like 10 times.
10 times. Yeah.
So we're going to fly the aeromag. That's going to take probably 6 weeks based on the ground magnetics that we did last year. So we got the geological team last year with backpacks with the magnetic units in it. They walked up and down in our central area and got the ground magnetic images for us. Within that area alone, there are 8 or 9 targets that we've identified that have never been drilled before, but show the right structures. So the power auger rig that we've got, so we've got a power auger, which is built on the back of an ATV. So a quad bike on tracks. Okay. It goes through all the marsh area, the snow, everything. So this vehicle can get to the remote areas and they can drill down 10 meters with this power auger. We've also got handheld augers that can drill down to 2 meters.
Ian, you said it can go down 10 meters. And what's the cover? 1 to 5 meters?
Between 1/2 and 5, yeah. So exactly. It's not a challenge for the power auger on the back of the ATV can drill very deep. The handhelds can drill about 2 meters. So depending on the cover, we either use the ATV power auger or we use the handheld power auger. But so we've got targets for those that they're drilling already with that power auger, which is great. And the diamond rig is already starting its first few holes. So always at the start of the season, the rig starts slower as the team get into the groove and you iron out any technical issues so that within a couple of weeks, you'll be at full tilt on the power augers and on the diamond drilling. So all of that work's happening in parallel and it all come together with different so the aeromag is flying in areas that we've never covered with close space magnetics before.
Is the aero rig, is that happening now as well?
It started this week and that'll be flying for the next probably 4 to 6 weeks. And that's covering areas that we haven't covered with ground magnetics. That'll identify new targets that the power auger, once it's finished drilling in the area we covered last year with the ground magnetics, the power augers will move to the new areas and identify new targets to add into our pipeline. The diamond rig is doing holes at our known resources, follow on from the successful exploration we had last year. The diamond rig will then move to where we've had success with the power auger on the targets they are already drilling now. And then the diamond rig will move to where the power auger has then confirmed new targets in the new area that hasn't been tested before. So between now and November, December, we're going to have a lot of drilling and a lot of news flow. And this year, we're even looking at extending the drilling and doing a winter drill season as well.
I was actually going to ask you that. Is there a specific, because it is Newfoundland, you get a lot of snow up there. Are there times when you can't, where you just have to say, back we go to the office and have a look at some of these results and identify where we're at? Or can you keep going 12 months of the year?
You can go 12 months of the year, but you need different equipment. So the rigs you need for summer are different to the rigs you use for winter, because obviously the temperature is 30 degrees colder. Newfoundland isn't as cold as mainland Canada. So we get to about -20, mainland Canada's -40 or -50. However, Newfoundland is on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. so it gets a lot of wind.
Wind.
So when you have that changing season between end of summer, start of winter, so autumn and spring, you get changing conditions, and that's when you get very, very strong winds. 100 kilometers an hour is regarded as normal there. So you don't want to be moving rigs. So for the remote areas, you fly their rigs around with a helicopter, and you can't do that when the winds are strong. So you want to get to an area, settle the rig down, and drill there for the next 3 weeks.
You mentioned earlier when you were talking about Marathon Gold having 4.5 million ounces. What Matador Mining and where you are, is this a similar structure, or is it a completely different structure with different challenges?
No, it's same. It's on the same shear zone. So our shear zone carries on from where we are all the way up and goes through their project areas. But within our 15-kilometer area, we've got 4 discovery areas, which are probably 7 open pittable deposits. 3 of those are totally different. Some are hosted in granite, some are hosted in schists. So even though it's a small area, you've got different host rocks. And so across the 120 strike kilometers, we will discover a whole range of different host rocks or geology types. Same as you have in West Australia on the gold structures in Western Australia. Just as long as the gold fluids were there, they may have been deposited into different host rocks.
Ian, last time I spoke to you, you were just getting into your stride with Matador Mining, and I can sense a lot more excitement in your language today. Are you feeling like and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are you feeling like you're on the cusp of a potential another Gold Road style? I know it's a different sort of host rock and it's a different area, but it feels to me like you're pretty excited. And I want to know what it was that attracted you to Matador Mining in the first place. So you had great success with Gold Road, and now you're looking at Matador.
All right. So roll the clock back and credit to the guys in Matador that picked up this project. Back in 2017, there was a cannabis boom on the TSX, and junior exploration companies couldn't fund work on their tenements. So there was a junior company that held these tenements. The Australian guys were looking for projects. They thought Australian projects were expensive. They didn't like the risk of Africa. And somebody mentioned that there was this project in Newfoundland, which again, at that stage, historically, Newfoundland's only ever produced 2.3 million ounces of gold in total. So that's tiny. Wow. So Newfoundland isn't regarded as a gold exploration or mining jurisdiction. But these guys went across there, they looked at the geology, they liked the geology, and they bought the project. In 2016, less than 70,000 meters of drilling was done on the entire island.
Okay.
2021, over 300,000 meters of drilling is planned on the island. So Newfoundland as an island is the new go-to jurisdiction for the Canadian, all the TSX companies. They're all wanting to get tenement there. So Marathon Gold that I mentioned, they've got a market cap of $600 million. Our market cap is 10% of what their market cap is. But they're on the same strike, and we own a larger portion of the Cape Ray share than they hold. But there's another company called Newfound Gold, which hasn't got a resource yet. They listed in August of last year, and their market cap, Kerry, is $1 billion.
What?
It's a $1 billion market cap company for an exploration company.
Why?
It's got a shareholder called Eric Sprott, a shareholder called Quinton Hennig, a shareholder called Rob McKeown.
What? Really?
Yeah. So these guys are getting into Newfoundland as an island in a big way.
Wow, that's, nothing against you, Ian, whatsoever, but, most people will know Rob McKeown Mining, Eric Sprott from everyone, and Quinton Hennig. Yeah. Very, very savvy people in the gold space.
Yeah, they've got them. We've got Mick Wilkes, Oceana Gold, built projects in New Zealand, Philippines, and in South Carolina. Nikki Adshet Bell, who's worked for Sprott, she's worked for Haywood, she's worked for Sun Valley, PhD geologist, highly recognized in Canada. And Justin Osborne, who worked with me at Gold Road and discovered Gruyere and got it quickly from discovery to maiden resource and into gold production in 5.5 years. So they've got the Canadian American angle to their company. We've got the Australian angle. And we've got what we are applying is the proven Australian methodology for exploring undercover. So they're $1 billion, we're 60. Let's see who.
Yeah, do the maths, ladies and gentlemen. Do the math. I wanted to, 2 more questions for you, Ian, before we have to wrap this up. But you mentioned before Australia, Africa, and the risk with Africa. What is it like to work in mining in Newfoundland? Tell me about the government. Tell me about the support. What's that like over there?
Oh, no, it's very good. So the Minister of Mines for the province is the minister for the region our project is based in. We speak to him in his office once a month. It's like, give him a call, open door, very supportive. The First Nations groups there, there are 2 of them that have been determined by the provincial government. We're in regular contact with them as well. All of these people are looking for jobs. So Newfoundland used to be reliant on fishing and forestry. Both of those industries are not what they were a few decades ago. So there's big unemployment in the area, but these are hardworking hunters, fishermen, people that are perfect for exploration work. So everybody that we're dealing with are looking for work to be created. Newfoundland has got a blueprint where they want 3 new mines to be developed in the next 5 years. Obviously, Marathon's are the most advanced. We would like to be the second one that gets up there and gets developed. So very, very welcoming area. And Newfoundland's number 8 on the Fraser Institute rankings, just behind WA.
When you say you want to be behind, was it Newfoundland Gold?
No, Marathon.
Marathon. If you want to be behind Marathon, tell me about your time frame on that one.
Well, we've already got the 840,000 ounces of resource. We've got a scoping study that we published last year. It's a 7-year mine life. Operating costs, AISC of sub 800 US, a payback of 1.25 years for a 7-year mine life. NPV twice what the capex is. So all the numbers are good, but as long as we're growing the resource, we'll keep exploring because we want to get to north of a 10-year mine life, and through the drill bit, we'll get there. And as we showed at Gold Road, if you make that big step out discovery, you elevate the value for shareholders significantly.
You understand how this all works, and that's what I find fascinating. And as an investor myself, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm feeling this excitement, but you're also attracting a little bit of attention from North American investors as well, aren't you? I believe you're listed on the OTC, is that correct?
Yeah, so we've listed on the OTC. We at the moment, we're trading on the pink sheets. From about in a week's time, we should be trading on the main OTC board. And we've done that because when I was in South Africa with DRD Gold, we were part of the ADR, the American Depository Receipt Program through NASDAQ. 500% of our issued capital traded per year through NASDAQ. 90% of our shareholders were US based.
Wow.
The US retail gold investors is a huge audience. Also, by being listed there, we listed in the same time frame as our project and the same time zone as all of our Toronto Canadian peers. So when people can then see directly what the valuation gap between ourselves and the Canadian companies, where the investors are already recognizing what Newfoundland has to offer, the Australian investors haven't realized that yet.
This is a very exciting time, Ian. I want to wrap it up with you letting our listeners out there know why now is a good time. I mean, we've talked about the fact that, Marathon Gold is a 600 million, Newfound Gold is $1 billion because of who's behind it. That kind of says it for itself. But what's your view on why people need to sit up right now and take a good look at Matador?
Newfoundland is proving to be elephant country. It's untested, unexplored. Exploration has only started there in the last 5 years. It's a tier 1 jurisdiction. It's a great place to operate. Our project is 25 kilometers away from a major port. So in terms of building a project, that'll be very easy. Cost of power is 6 cents a kilowatt hour. So everything's lined up for project development. But on top of that, we've got the 120 kilometers, which has hardly been explored. I certainly believe we're going to make plenty of discoveries across this belt.
Ian Murray, I feel your excitement, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? He's done it before. And I've often said this to you. If they've done it before, there's every good chance they may do it again. Ian Murray from Matador Mining, thank you so much for joining us on Small Caps today.
Thanks, Kerry.